course, is disclaimer, as it's always, this is meant for educational purposes, is not specific recommendations or advice, and it's, you know, most people, not everybody's FFF, but it's not sanctioned or sponsored by FFF, but they legally have allowed me to do this. And I want to make sure, can you guys give me a thumbs up that you'll allow me to release the recording? Okay. Then this topic is, you know, it's average 401k. Personal finance is really, it's personal, you know, so, but there's something I think as humans, we always kind of are curious about, you know, where we stack up against, you know, against others. So, you know, hopefully you guys find this interesting, and hopefully you're actually, but we'll go through various things, but I'll kick it off with a poll. And this is just a screensaver while we do polls. Okay. The first question: do you contribute at least enough to the 401k or 403b TSP to get the employer match? So just about half get the full match, but don't max the contributions. 2 don't get the match. Maybe they don't have a match. Could be the case, like TSP if you're prior to VRS. 5 says max the annual contributions. Great. That's so nearly half max the contribution. So that's great to see, and not a single person. Everybody does contribute, so that's good. If you don't max, do you set up auto increase, which 40% said yes, 40% said no, and 20% said, how the heck do you do that? I know how to do it on Viasats. I'd have to check, but there's usually, nearly everything has something, a pretty, if you go into wherever the, you know, your provider, your plan, there's usually somewhere under contributions where there's just a checkbox. You can pretty much set up auto increase, and it'll do it every year, like a percent. You can adjust that. But if anybody has any questions, we can talk about that separately later. 3, have you increased your investments savings for 2024? And good, 2/3 of people have. That's good to hear. As you make raises, you should continue to save and invest more rather than just spending it. Do you have an IRA? Okay, 20% have a Roth, 33% have a traditional, and then this is what I was kind of expecting. 44% have both, and not a single person does not have an IRA. So that's good news. That's changing over time too, because initially when we started, there were several that didn't. I think most people should get you'll need both, and especially as your income goes up, because you're likely. I'm a big fan of the Roth IRA, and as your income goes up, you can easily get over the income limit to contribute directly to a Roth, and so that's where you need a traditional and a Roth to make non-deductible contributions to the traditional, then backdoor convert it to a Roth IRA. And so next one. Yep. It's, I'm gonna mute you, Vanti. Okay, do you max fund your IRA annually? Good. 67% do. 33% do not. Hopefully everybody can soon. To me, the hierarchy of saving and investing, you get the max match on your 401k, but then I go to maxing out the IRA, because you have more flexibility, better investing options, most likely. And then go back, once you've max funded the IRA, go back and contribute more to your 401k, TSP, brokerage account, whatever. But that's mine, because typically it's just lower fees, better investing options in general. So max those first. But get that free money. That's why get the match first. Okay, 6. Is your TSP, do you contribute traditional or Roth, or a combination of both? 67% do just traditional. Kind of surprised there. 1 does all Roth, and 22% does a combination. I think most people probably should do a combination, but considering there's the Tax Cut and Jobs Act is set to expire January 1st, 2026, our tax rates, and we don't know what's going to happen, but there's due to sunset, and that does, all of the tax rates are going to go up. So it's kind of the last, like, it's now's, these years are probably the time to maybe boost that Roth bucket up a bit, while the tax rates are a little bit lower. And then it all depends on what tax brackets you're at. We've talked about that before, but it can go in that. But I'm surprised that not more people aren't contributing some Roth, because I personally expect tax rates to go up with everything going on. And nobody ever complained about tax-free money in retirement, by the way. Just okay. 7, do you track your net worth? Okay, and various things. Okay, if you're doing it monthly, like 22%, that might be a little bit excessive, I'd say. Some people like numbers or like accounting, but I do it quarterly myself. But a lot of times I think quarterly, annually, semi-annually is good. One doesn't contribute at all, and one said, what the heck's net worth, which is why we'll get into it. Net worth is your total assets minus your total liabilities. So it's what your real worth is, what with all this, everything that you own, both when you're talking investments, your house, your cars, your jewelry, whatever, minus everything that you owe on that. And tracking it's important. Here's why I think tracking it's so important, because as you see your net worth grow up, it's this like positive behavioral response where you want to see it keep going up. And so it kind of helps you save and invest even more. And so it's kind of helps provide that forcing function as you see as you see your worth getting up. Okay, last one. And I always, whenever I think of net worth, I think of umbrella insurance. Do you have an umbrella policy, which is, it's called a PLUP, a personal liability umbrella policy? Only one does. 67% do not, and as expected, some don't. 22% don't know. An umbrella policy is an additional rider on top of basically your homeowners, renters, and auto insurance. And so those minimums, like let's say you get in a car accident, those minimums are so low. And if you're at fault, or say somebody slips on a banana to your place, you'll get sued. And if you don't have umbrella insurance, it's going to come out of your net worth. Umbrella sits on top of those liability limits for your homeowners and your auto and renter's insurance, and it protects you in case of a suit. It's so cheap. It's like $150 to $300 a year for $1 million in coverage. And then, but you want it up to your net worth. That way, if something happens and somebody comes after you, you're protected up to your net. So no, you're not going to lose anything. And it's so cheap, and it's just silly not to do. So everybody that doesn't do that, you probably go through your wherever you probably have all your insurance bundled. I'm guessing like U.S. military, USAA, State Farm, whatever. So just talk to them about umbrella policy. They'll bump up your liability limits on some. It'll maybe increase your auto policy a couple of bucks, but then you're covered. So it's very important. We can talk. This talk wasn't really just meant to be about umbrella insurance. And Avanti, if you hear anything I say that sounds wrong, please correct me. Avanti and I are in the same mastermind group for. She's also passed her CFP exam as well, and we're working together on our own firms. Okay, any questions on the poll? Okay, I'll stop sharing and move on. And in chat, I'm not good at monitoring, so if you have something, just speak up. Raise your hand, whatever. Just speak up. If that's the easiest way. I don't need you to raise your hand. Okay, those are just the questions. Here's the agenda. As mentioned, we'll go over the 401k balances, average income, and real quick, can somebody tell me what's the difference between average and the median? Like the arithmetic, by average, I'm meaning the mean. And in, go
But
ahead.
the average is adding everything up and dividing by the number of how many there is.
Yep,
Median is just taking the middle number,
good.
not adding. So
Exactly. You have all the numbers lined up from the smallest to the largest, and median's exact what's in the middle. What's better when you're talking about like net worth and this kind of stuff? Is average or is median more a better reflection? It's
Probably median, since outliers will screw up the mean.
exactly. Absolutely, Mike. Because outliers, people that have, and it's really on this because you can't have a negative balance or a net, they it's those people like it's especially like income, those people that make a ton of money skew that average way up and so the median's a much better is a better thing to actually look at. And in most things like that, median home price, that's always kind of the better thing to look at. But too often the press and everybody else just uses the mean, the average, and it's not very good. So okay, these are from Fidelity and Vanguard. They're main holders of 401k plans. So you're looking at 25 million people here in the U.S. And I put up both the medians and the average, so you can see that difference, as Mike was saying, just how much like they get skewed by people that have more in there. But it's kind of depressing to me to look at the 50 to 59. Like these numbers are so low. And I'm hoping this audience has much higher numbers. But I mean, when you're starting out, I get it but as people getting in the 40 to 49 and the 50 to 59, those numbers, and then 65 plus, that's just, that's, especially if you don't have a pension, whatever, that's not going to provide a very comfortable retirement, I wouldn't think. But what's nice to see though is the actual average contribution rate has been going up. And that 14.2% includes both employer portion and the employee and the employer contribution. It's like 9.7%, and then 4.7 else percent from the employer. But that's good. And a lot of this is helped because some legislation that was put out, they used that they're, all the new 401k plans are kind of like auto enter, and people are just doing it. So only like 2% of people pull out of actually the automatic contributions, and they bump that up from 3% to 6%, and the change, nobody's more has opted out. So to me, that's what they should have done from the start. Like, yeah, bump it up, heck, I would almost, to me, perfectly, I'd want companies to have it, whatever their match is, like what Bias said, it's 10%. You need to contribute 10% to get the 5% match. I'd much rather auto start at 10%, but anyway, that's, anybody else have any thoughts about these numbers? They're pretty kind of mad. I saw your expression looks kind of scary.
Yeah, this is scary because I mean, even if you plug it into, a very generous calculator, it's not enough.
No, and especially you depend on where you live, of course. But I mean, California, heck, DC area, these places are not cheap. So this is broken out too. Just put it in graphical format, and you can see. But notice how different that the average. So those outliers really make a significant difference, and you'd have a complete misunderstanding, I think, if you just looked at the average. You're like, oh, it's not. It looks a lot better, but it's not reality.
Hey, Alan.
Yeah.
I think something that would be interesting to show,
yeah,
if it's available at some point, is okay. So you've got the median by age, but I'm curious about the median contribution of over time, because value of investing is the more you do earlier, even if it's a lower dollar amount, it grows exponentially due to the compounding interest. So like if somebody in the 20 to 25 age group has a median contribution of, I think it was like 7,000.
Yeah.
You know, what does that do by the time they get to 50 to 59? If they keep the current contribution going, because that, you know, I always kick myself for not starting earlier at a higher percentage. And that's usually my non-official, non-financial planner advice to young people. Just start now. I don't care if it's $20 a paycheck. Start
It's so
now.
true, and actually as much as you can, because the earlier you are, it's the savings rate over the rate of return that's more important. You know, so, but no, absolutely. The tough thing going, Matt, on that, and I'll look up, see what I can find, but there's several variables there, you know, like, okay, you know, can we really figure out how old people are and what percentage they're doing? You know, I don't think there's that detail of data. I'll see what I can find. But, and then additionally, kind of, what are they investing in? You know, which makes does make a significant difference. Just like,
Yeah, you're right.
back in
Just
the
do
day,
a
ESP just went into the G fund. You know, fortunately now it goes into the life cycle fund. But
Right.
you know, I mean, that was just terrible. And you know, many people sat there with their TSP. TSP, for those that don't know, that's a government 401k, both for the military and federal government. And they have this G fund, which is a government. It's basically it's almost like, it's kind of like treasuries basically, but that's where all your money went into initially, years ago, until they started adding life cycle funds and at least got you into a life cycle fund to start. But I know too many people that were impacted by that. So let's see. Okay, hey, Nicole and Chris, saw you guys join. I think you guys missed the poll, but can show you that later if you'd like. This now we're going on to average income. Here I break out once again average and median, and we were talking about earlier, and Mike hit it right. I said, what's more important? What's a better reflection when you're looking at these kind of things, median or the mean, the average? And median is really the better, because you got those outliers that really skew the average way up. So I mean, you're looking at, like, look at these incomes. It makes me almost makes me embarrassed. Look at this. Some of these 99%. It'd be nice to have that kind of income. But what I highlight on this is like, as we go through this, is the median and the 90%. I'd like people to be in the top 10%. You know, let the top 1%. That's you know, you got to have something, some business, you know, something crazy to be in that. But
I'm curious, is that household or individual on the previous chart?
this household.
Okay.
Actually, sorry, this is actually median income per. Let me take a look. I think it's actually, this is household income. That's right. I remember looking at it. So it's you know, even if it's dual working. So, and granted, in California, these incomes would not get you very far. But this is, you know, across the average, and I'll show you by the states what they are. And here I highlight like different ages and what the median is, and I highlight the 90%, because that's where, you know, if you can get the 90% or above, that's what I like. You know, it'd be great. We all could shoot for in general. Okay, and here's Mike, to your question about individual, or here's a breakdown of states, you know, what the median income, household income is. And, you know, like Mississippi always hits the bottom. I know some people at Viasat that live in Mississippi. I'm like, probably must be doing well. Yeah. But, you know, California, let's see, we'll go. And you see actually here, United States just shows the overall average for the United States, which is just under 70,000. And then here's the top ones, which California comes in at about 85,000, which I thought it would be. I thought California would be a little bit higher, but these, you know, East Coast ones top of the charts actually. So, and DC being one of those. but it's still not very much. The one thing though about like, do you guys recall from previous polls where what was the average household income for millionaires when they first got $1 million in net worth? Do you guys remember what that was? It's a few years old, but salaries haven't increased all that much. It was 89,000. Not, so it's kind of embarrassing for a lot of people, I think, when they realize, oh, what, but it takes an average of 28 years. Hopefully that's coming down as incomes go up, but that's what it has been. Okay, so net worth. Anybody, we talked about this, but anybody else want to have a better, more concise definition of what net worth is?
I
Okay,
just always think of it as the gross of or the net of assets and liabilities, but
exactly. Yep, total value of all your assets minus the total of all your liabilities. And then there's a difference. That's where I put this as a balance sheet versus an income statement. A balance sheet is where you get your net worth, and that's what you want to be, is balance sheet wealthy, not income sheet income statement. Because people can make a ton of income, but if they're not saving and investing, they could be poor as they could be living paycheck to paycheck and still not ever build wealth. So the balance sheet is what's more important. And I know you can't see all those numbers, but it's just showing here's cash, investments, personal property, retirement accounts, and other things, all your assets, and then all your different things that you still owe on. Do you guys, let's see. Yeah, are you income statement rich or balance statement rich? Balance statement rich is where you want to be. Okay, this is what Schwab has a good, okay, here's how to list things to think of when you're looking at your net worth and how to do that. And they have a sample worksheet. There's a link to that right there. But as I said earlier, to me, actually tracking net worth is very motivational. As you see those numbers, people they probably got a negative net worth, they might have student loans, etc. But as that number becomes positive and grows, it's just provides this nice. You want to see it keep growing, and so it's a good behavioral push to keep you saving and investing more. Okay, here's some questions. Do you guys include the value of your car in your net worth? And then and I don't either, Matt, but it actually would be interesting, but it would take a little more work. Because then you have to go and figure out, since it's a depreciating asset, how much is that losing over time? So I don't even want it, myself. But in reality, you should have an idea, because we go back when I'm talking about umbrella insurance. You need to know what your really overall net worth is, which includes all these other things. So, and then the value of your home. Do you keep what you purchased it at, or do you go with what Zillow or Redfin is saying, and changes as you do your updates?
I use my current comps that I get. Either I get it from Zillow and from my real estate agent. So I use the equity of the comps primarily, because I still kind of consider just the equity is kind of what I base it off of.
Okay, I do both because I'm a dork, but because you need to know your net worth, which is that actual market value minus what you owe on it still. And that's really more for umbrella. But I like to keep what we bought it for. And then if we do any addition, like remodels or money we put into it, I add that into the value. Or really, you should probably do about 70%, because you're not getting the full value of your remodels. But what that does, because what I like doing about that is then I see what my practices of saving and investing are doing, not just what the market says it's doing because of my house. So where I can see, okay, because of what I'm contributing to my 401k, my IRA, my brokerage account, that's what's really growing. Which, when it comes down to it, that's your financial freedom assets. You can't. You'd have to taking out equity on your house to live is not ideal. Let's say, but that's where I'd say financial freedom assets, which are what's liquid, what you can actually use, versus what's your actual net worth. And like jewelry, I don't consider that either. Like hey, honey, can we go sell this? That's not ever going to happen. And that'd be passed down anyway. You know what I mean? That's like such a legacy thing. So anyway, okay. So what percent of their net worth do you think people's personal primary residence is in the US in general that are homeowners? What's the average of their net worth that's based just on home equity?
30%.
30?
I was gonna say 60 to 70.
Well,
150.
70% actually is, and actually 30% is more where you want it to be. That the financial planners say, hey, 25 to 40%, and it also varies by age. Like if you're very young and have a home, it's definitely going to be, you know, a larger percentage. But as you're growing up, you want it more to be about 25 to 40%. It's tough though in certain areas, especially along the coast, like where we're, you know, in California. Heck, the properties are so expensive, you know, and on the East Coast, you know, just the coast. Those skew them as well, but sadly it's true across the board, and so many people just have they don't save and invest elsewhere, unfortunately. But I don't want 70% of my net worth in my home because it's not liquid. Okay, here's here's what like I said, kind of what I include. And I just mentioned I don't change with I do track it in a separate tab. But I really, for myself, what I'm looking at, I keep the home value as it is, plus what I put into, you know, like renovations. And like I said, I don't put in the car value. Just that might be actually fun to see just how much how terrible cars are, the depreciating assets. And then jewelry, you know, like I said, that's important one to know for your, you know, understanding overall, but I don't consider that because I know that's never going to be used. Okay, this is a net worth tracker that I have, and if you guys are interested, these are just fake numbers I threw in there, but you know, I break it down into taxable investments like brokerage accounts, Roth portions, traditional retirement, and then, you know, all these other items, home, and then, you know, breaks it up into a table, you know, a pie chart showing what is your net worth and made up of in percentage. So if anybody's interested, that's, you know, it's for downloading. It's, you know, set up on a quarterly, so you can update it. And I break it out, like I said, there's net worth here, and then there's, I'd say, total FI assets, which are, you know, financial independence. So that's your liquid things that you can actually use to enjoy your life. Okay, net worth. Now we're going on the average on net worth. I know some of these numbers are kind of low, all are hard to see. Once again, the top 1% totally skews it, so you can't even see what the rest is, but it's easier to see on the table. Like I said, I like, you know, hopefully have the audience here at the 90% or better. And this is where, you know, where the 90% are at for the various age groups on net worth. So 40 to 44 is, these numbers are jumping up noticeably. I think the last time in 2022 when I did this, it was like the 40 to 44 was almost 300K lower. So maybe people are actually saving, investing more. But anybody have any questions, any thoughts on these numbers?
Actually, Alan, quick question. So, sorry,
Sure.
does net worth does or does not include our 401k balance?
It does, absolutely.
It does. Okay.
It includes all your assets. So your 401ks, your IRAs, your brokerage account, check your cash, your checking account, savings accounts, your home. It does include in reality your auto, you know, your cars. I just don't track that because it's just a depreciating asset. Minus what you owe on everything. So if you have $1 million home, but you own 990,000,
Yeah.
you only got 10,000. You only got 10K in equity, you know.
Yep.
So, which is, you know, but does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Okay. Yep. Anybody have any thoughts on these? Like, once again, I highlighted the 90%, but take a look at the medians. you know, just as we were looking at the median 401k balances, these, heck, at least in, you know, in more expensive areas, these numbers are, people need to start saving more, investing more. Okay, and this is, I did net worth minus the top 1% because I think this makes it much more clear where, you know, most people actually stand. So, and you can see, you know, at the 90% point, I think that's a good trajectory, you know, like if people could be, you know, get to these numbers. But we'll go into like saving too much versus not saving enough. And then I broke it down just by the different age groups, so you could see it a little more closely. These numbers are in thousands, you know, of dollars for the youngins out there, and then there shows, you know, here's 40 to 69. And you see that in all these, you see actually as the age starts going up, people are retiring and their net worth starts going down a bit, which is, it's good in a sense because they're spending, I think, because too often that's good savers are not good spenders. And, you know, dying with the biggest wallet doesn't mean winning. Okay, yep, just booking down there. Okay, and then now this is kind of opinionated, but where should you be? Net worth, you know, is based on your age, your income, and this all comes. I liked the Millionaire Next Door. They had a great Dr. Stanley had a great formula he used for what's an average accumulator of wealth and a prodigious accumulator of wealth, which what hope is everybody is a prodigious accumulator of wealth, which is like double what the average is. So what it does is take your age times your income and then divide it by 10. The Money Guy show, it's a good podcast I like. They actually say, okay, when you're under 40, it's hard to meet those numbers because you're probably just starting to earn an income likely in your early 20s, you know. So the idea that you know, at 25, you'd be at, you know, age times your income divided by 10 is not. So they say, hey, 10 plus in the denominator, 10 plus your age until you're 40. So if you're 25 years old, the denominator would be, or as the example shows, age 30, you've got 10 years till you're 40, so making 75K, 30 times 75K divided by 20 is what is an average accumulative wealth. Now, the prodigious accumulative wealth is basically 2 times that. And that's what hoping everybody is, because you'll see the average is just like we've seen in the media and stuff. It's not enough in general. But here you see that same person, age 30, 225K by 112K. And now we'll go through some numbers, some examples, and using the various incomes that, you know, that we're showing. I use median and the 90% and various ages to see where we're at. Okay, here's for a 25-year-old. Median income was 40K in reality, and what I did for the median net worth, because it's just a set age and all the data is kind of skewed over an age bracket, I took what their age is in the middle, because it's like 18 to 24 and 25 to 29. So I took the average of those two and threw up there for the median net worth. But as an average accumulated wealth, he'd have 40,000, 80,000 for prodigious. On the right, you see the income in the 90 percentile for that age, 82,000. In what we see is people that are in a 90% net worth have 241K. And these would be the average and prodigious accumulators. Does anybody have any questions on these formulas?
I do, Alan. I have a
Yep.
question for you. Well, let me ask you this. Are you calculating pensions, are you calculating them different, or are they just included as in the income, or?
Pensions are not part of your net worth. So it's what it does is you need to include that in your your number for financial independence. So so let's say you need to spend you have an average expenses per year of 100,000. Okay, and you have a pension of 60,000. Well, you need investable assets of 40,000 to per year to live, to afford that 100,000 K life, right? And so that's where then you're looking at that number 40,000 to be technically financially independent. It by the 4% rule. You would need 25 times that 40,000, which would be $1 million. So you'd need $1 million in invested, in liquid assets to be financially independent on top of your pension. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay.
It does. It's a little difficult in my situation, but I think I understand it. I'm gonna look more into
Okay,
that.
and I could go into it more, but it doesn't. So and granted, like pensions might have, if there's a survivor, benefit, there might be something. But if you pass away, in general, let's just say you don't, or you're single, you pass away, that's gone. There is no worth to it after that. Does that make sense?
Correct.
So when you're talking about net worth, it's not in that number, but it significantly contributes to what you need in net worth in order to be financially independent.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what like the retirement, financially independent game. I didn't know like how you calculate into that figure. So
And that's where that's and we have actually another talk. We'll do that again, but talking about, hey, how do you factor in pension, Social Security, disability, all that kind of stuff into your financial independence number. So those slides and recordings are up on the website as well. Avanti, do you have any thoughts on that? Anything I should add? She might not be nearby, so okay. But does that does make sense though, Michael?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it does. Thank you.
Now we'll go through these. This is a 30-year-old, so the median income, 46.5. And once again, I took averages of these because it had like 25, 35, 45, 55, and 65 were the ages I could find these. So I just split the difference between a 25 and a 35-year-old median income and put that out. But so and you notice it's kind of interesting. Even the 90% category of net worth is more, they're even better than the prodigious accumulator of wealth. So that's where we want to be if we could. But at least, the prodigious accumulator of wealth is definitely, we want to be at least there, in my opinion. Okay. Here's for a 35-year-old. And you see the differences between the median and the 90%. Now it's getting really significant difference there. A little over 100K to 700K. But that's the problem is if you make a bunch of money, but you don't save and invest, if your net worth won't be where it should be. Here's for a 40-year-old. That's pretty good. 40-year-old are already a millionaire. That's good. The average numbers it's usually over. I think it's that's coming down. And Schwab does a survey of what do you guys think? What is rich in the U.S.? What amount of net worth? Exactly, because like people are like being a millionaire is not rich anymore. And it's like, well, $1 million is still a lot better than not having $1 million. But what really is what's considered wealthy in the U.S.? Schwab has a study in 2023. They determined it was $2.2 million is what is considered wealthy in the U.S. And that of course depends on where you're at, but that's just across, you know, everything.
I have a question.
Yep.
The PAW, AAW numbers,
Mhm.
is there intuition behind these numbers? Like, or
It's
is
a
it just
formula.
like a score? Sorry?
It's a formula.
Yeah,
So
so like, can I look at the number and say something, or is it just like more of a comparison number?
these were just comparisons. Like, oh, so I took the formula and just showed them for the different numbers. Here's like for the 40-year-old, this is the median income that you know, that we as reported, you know, that across the U.S. And then what the median net worth is through this age group. And then I use this median income in that formula and saying, okay, based on this was what an average accumulator of wealth would be, a prodigious accumulator, and then likewise for the 90% people in the 90th percentile, what their income is, what their actual net worth shows that what we see it is, and then where the different categories. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, and for the 45-year-old, same here. 50-year-old. $55-year-old.
Hey, Alan, why do we start to see a decline in the prodigious accumulator of wealth relative to net worth?
So, wait, say it again, between,
So this is the average, right? Oh no, that's the average.
that's what we show, not the average, that's where the 90th percentile
Oh, right. That's
what
what I
their
meant.
net worth is in the US. So the average, I don't show the average because that's meaningless in my opinion. So I showing the median, which is the good average, and then the 90th percentile where, you know, I want people to shoot for. You know what I mean? That's kind of,
Yep. So I get back to the point is, okay, so 90% are at 2 mil, but prodigious accumulators are at 1.5.
yeah. So these people that are at the 90% have done even better.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it's, I mean,
Oh, because
this is
PAW is a formula
just a
from
formula
PAW.
for, yep, you want to be at least, in my opinion, a prodigious accumulator of wealth. But you can see what's interesting is the people that have this higher net worth are doing even better than the prodigious in general. So, and you see, and it makes sense if they start early, that's going to compound, right? So it's going to keep growing, you know, likely larger. So plus they might have actually had a higher income, and there's a lot of variables in here, but there's a 55-year-old, here's the 60-year-old, and 65-year-old. Let's see up there, and then after that it starts to decline, but I stopped at that point. So hopefully we're all ready and ready to retire before
We become consumers of our wealth. Worth.
exactly. Yep. Okay, so and here's like from when you look at in financial planning, when we study this is what they say your kind of your ratio of invested assets. So that's not counting your house, but your invested assets should be to what your actual gross pay is. You know, you see that number goes up. You know, as you age, which makes sense. You know, when you're young, yeah, you're just starting out. So, you know, but as you get towards 65, you need this 16 to 20 times your income. They're saying so that's you got the nest egg to live on when you don't have money coming in. Okay, and here was some like if anybody's here was just some other like examples of for different people, different, you know, where they should be at for.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Sorry, Alan, question for you on the previous slide. Would a naive napkin math interpretation of that bottom row there be that you're planning on living 18 years past 65?
So
I
I
know
would
there's,
say that because it's invested assets, so you're going to have some return. The whole point is it's beating out inflation. So,
yeah, okay.
you know, and usually these numbers are typically for a 30-year horizon. That's even like the 4% rule. That was all based on you know, surviving 30 years. So say 65 people retire
Mhm.
until 95.
Okay. Cool. Thanks.
Makes
Mhm.
sense.
Thank
Yep. And by the way, 4% rule. Well, I don't believe that's a good way to. It's a good thumb rule. It's not a good way to distribute your money. In general, it's what they've shown is that that's successful 96% of the time, and that actually nearly 50% of the time that money grows up to 4 times what it was if you just use the straight 4% rule.
Okay, nice. Thank you.
Okay, and yeah, this is just a couple examples. Anybody want any other numbers run? Let me know. I'll be happy to share those. Okay, here's so if you're above these numbers, what do you think? That's great. And here's the thing: that's when you can take it off the pedal. A book I recommend everybody to read is Die with Zero. And I'm not saying you should die with zero, but it's a good thing to. It's a good book to read to consider live now as well as saving for a comfortable retirement. Is what I think. You're not going to be able to climb Machu Picchu probably when you're 85. So there's the experiences you want to do. You need to spend money now on life experiences because that's what is life. It's really some of your experiences. So don't save for a future that you never know. What can happen. So and that's like I said, dying with the fattest wallet is not success. But dying with zero is it's balance. I don't want to bounce my last paycheck, but at the same time. So, and then what if you're behind the curve? Like, here's the thing: don't get riskier. That's not the. You need to start figuring out your budget better and start saving more. And sometimes, depending on the situation, they might have to work a little longer. But here's some quick things that you can do to reduce your spending that, always every year people need to check all their subscriptions, how much we, have wasted. I like the 72-hour rule for purchases, like Amazon and all this stuff. We're such consumers, and so many things we actually probably don't need. So hold off for 72 hours, and don't. The biggest thing though is don't panic. It's time to be a little more intentional, and getting to where you need to be. Okay, and here's just some quick things for people, especially when they're younger, looking at some. I'd use these numbers from back a couple of years ago, but say you were contributing $20,500 for 30 years to your retirement account, and that's using like a biweekly paycheck. At an 8% rate of return for 30 years, you'd get a balance of $2.56 million. And let's say you don't spending it. Say you have a pension, or you're not spending it, and you are spending it, but it continues spending some, but because of it's still growing, it's growing at 3%. By the time you have to take required minimum distributions, RMDs, at age 75, your balance would be 3.44 million. And then when you hit RMD age, though, for all the traditional accounts, that's where you don't have control anymore. Uncle Sam wants their money, and that's all income that you have to pay taxes on. So at that balance, it'd be a little over 4%. So you'd be looking at over 140 or like 140K a year of income just from that RMDs that you're gonna have to pay taxes on, and that's gonna get higher as you get that percentage. It goes up as you get older. So that's where we talk about Roth conversions and things to minimize so that you maintain control of your taxes, not Uncle Sam. Any questions there? And then we've talked about this too, but Michael, this is kind of what you're talking about, like with the pension and how much you need to save. really you got to know your expenses, and it's financial freedom, financial independence is having enough wealth to pay one's living expenses for the rest of their life without having to be employed or dependent on others, no income coming in. But if you have a pension, like I said, that subtracts out from that number. And the 4% rule, that's the kind of the safe withdrawal rate. That's what they, the Bill Bengen and the Trinity study have done multiple examples throughout all different histories, showing that if you did a 4% withdrawal on what you have that's accounted for inflation, so every year you increase your withdrawals by inflation, you'll 96% of the time you won't run out of money. And then, yeah, just FU money that's as expected. In a toxic, it's kind of money where you can just go away for a few years. Compounding, importance of starting early. I thought was pretty interesting, but like a piece of paper is only 0.05 millimeters thick. That's, when you fold it just that many times, that's how big it gets. Same thing with money, you guys remember the rule of 72, right? Whatever your average rate of return you get divided into 72 is how long it'll take your money to double. That's assuming no additional additions are made. So if you were able to make an 8% rate of return, your money would double every 9 years. And then if you're contributing, obviously it's just going to go up. The one thing people often do too often, though, is they get too conservative too early, and that last doubling, which is the most important doubling, they skip out on. That's one of the things I don't really like about life cycle or the you still need money in the market even when you're retired. So those life cycle funds and those I'm missing the word, but I feel like
the date target funds, target date funds.
Target funds. Yep. But let's see. Okay. Any questions? Here's questions for you guys. You guys have any questions for me or other things you want to talk about? Okay. Here's other, these are veteran specific topics that we'll continue to do. We've done those. The other ones that are already lined out, those are already recorded and available. And then here's the next couple. I'm preparing our estate planning and education funding for children, like 529s. It's been a pretty busy time, so it takes a little while to build it. But those are next upcoming ones that I'll do. And then if you guys have, let me know what specific ones you're interested in. We can go with those. So okay, well that's all I've got. Any go backs or questions?
Oh, thank you, Alan.
You're welcome.
Alan, these are great. Thank you so much.